Oh, hi folks, hope you're well, and if not, get better quick. Sound advice. Excuse me a second. Bit of crap on the monitor there. Well, what to say? I have to do these videos off the cuff. I don't have a script, so forgive me having to pause occasionally while I get my act together. But there is so much I want to convey in my videos, and I wish you watching, yes, you, would do some too. Because I see these names and they're lovely and lovely comments, but I often think it doesn't take a lot to do a video, folks. It really doesn't. And you can use Photo Booth if you've got a Mac or PC. Anybody can do videos, but I want to hear what you've got to say. I want to see your face. I want to hear your voice and your emotion. You know, but it's kind of you to put comments too, don't forget. But there's nothing nicer in China to see someone's face, is there? But there's a few things that I want to convey, and I want to get it all out, but I'm in danger of dumping it all on you because I've got so much I want to say. So I have to do it in piecemeal, and sometimes it comes across as a little bit disjointed and out of sequence. And it's up to you, and I'm sure you're intelligent enough to put A, B, C, D, E in order. And I might throw out an F and a G and a H in total different orders. So forgive me, because my mind is like that. It's how I'm wired. It is well known that if you were French, you would think differently to a German. Think differently. You are absolutely right. The French think entirely, their processing of available data that their body takes in every way, by their brain is entirely different, strangely enough. Okay, this is what makes borders, language and culture very, very important, because you can spot, well, I can, not sure about yourselves, I can't speak for you, but I can tell that regardless of the accent, the way people think, I can think he's thinking or discussing or he's acting like a Frenchman or a French woman. And the same could be said for the German people. They think everybody in the world knows that they are technical, alles in order, everything's in order, yeah, it's perfect, they are very didactic, they put a square peg in a square hole. They won't put it in a round one and wiggle. No, everything, alles in Ordnung, ja. And they are wired, their brains are wired like a circuit board with such precision, and this is why German engineering is so superb. You can't take it off them, and their brains process information differently to Canadian brains or Spanish brains. Our brains are wired differently. Wouldn't it be boring if we were all the same, robots doing the same, thinking the same? You know, life ain't like that. But there's a few, I mean, this is why I'm so pleased that I'm English. Because there are certain characteristics. If you ask foreigners what they think of English people, oh, we're very polite. That's nice. We've got good manners on the whole. We are caring. And we're very, you know, there's a list. Yeah. We have our lists, the Germans have theirs and the French have theirs. And, you know, with a bit of luck, we all get along because it's a very nice eclectic mix of, this is what multiculturalism is with borders. Because you have to have a way of being able to back off and shut the door for a while and recover. Because you get a mismatch. And this is why I am opposed to multiculturalism being imposed on a country, because countries rely on borders, language and culture. And it's for very good reason. It was never designed, we humans, to all be homogenized in one globular mass. Now, I think like an English person. Maybe I don't think like a Scottish, or I'm half Scottish. I haven't been brought up in Scotland, but had I been brought up in Scotland, I would think like somebody who's Scottish, who are renowned at being a bit tight financially, a bit, I wouldn't use the word a bit Jewish, but not so generous, very careful with their money. Very gregarious when they've had a few scotches, and they're very welcoming and very, very proud of their country, and so they should be. And Hootsmon, they're very traditionalist, of course, aren't they? And that's great. And then south of the border, Hadrian's Wall, technically, we have the Brits, the English. And county by county, they're different as well. The English, we have counties, the same as Germans have states, and the French. I can tell somebody from Liverpool, and I can tell not just by their accent, but the way they process and think. I can tell they've been brought up in Liverpool or Manchester. I know, I didn't have to be told. But they're often, yes, their accent or their way they speak varies. I can tell someone from London, if he's a real Cockney, that means they're born within the sound of the Bow Bells on a church. Oh yeah, Cockneys, they're a class unto themselves. So even at a microscopic or macro level, if you like, in British society, we are all different. Thank God. Wouldn't it be boring? But at a state level and a country level, we are so different. But if you look and stand back and ask somebody who's English or Scottish or Irish or Welsh, explain what your perception is of a German. And then there will be common denominators, as I said. Very technical, usually well educated, overbearingly conformist, in the sense that they do as they're told. They follow the rules with precision. Alles in Ordnung, everything in order. And they sweep their streets. They never used to be allowed to wash their cars on a Sunday. That's changed. They never used to be able to hang their washing out on a Sunday either. A very religious country. Okay, very Catholic orientated country. So there's many things that are different with us, thank goodness me. And us English, or us British, if you like, what's left of us, and we are an endangered species. Well, the reason I say that, of course, is that we stopped breeding after 1.86 children, us Caucasians. Well, that's an economic reason, it's not a religious reason. Historically, people just simply cannot afford to have lots of children, especially if you have to pay for them. You see, and that's why we are becoming an endangered outbred species, because there are others in our society who just, they can have 4 wives, and each wife might kick out 4 children. 16 to 1.62 or 1.84, whatever the number, let's say 2, shall we? 16 to 2 ratio, it's an inevitability that white Caucasian people in this country, sooner or later, will be dwindled to such an extent, we will be nothing. We will be extinct if we're not very close to it. Okay, so that said, what we have now is a situation we have this business going on with Brexit. Now, I don't want to labour the point, because we know what Brexit's about by now. Most people know what Brexit's about. It's the death throes of the European superstate trying to grab hold of us and pull us in because misery loves company, and we're trying to get out, and the rest of Europe, who are suffering, are trying to keep us in. Well, if we're in and going to what's happening to us, we don't want you escaping, and we want to escape the clutches of the euro and all that nonsense. And quite right too. And the reason I say that is that there's a couple of things that I live by, really. Well, there's 2 words, perhaps, to explain it, or 2 phrases. One is I don't assume. A-S-S-U-M-E. Assume. Okay, A-S-S-U-M-E. One should never assume, because you'll often be wrong. You've got to work with the facts. Don't assume anything. Well, I was sure he was going to go left, but he went right. Or he went straight on. Well, I assumed because I'd considered this, that and the other, or he hadn't considered. Creatures of habit would have gone left, and bugger me, he went straight on. First time I've ever seen him go straight on, Your Honour. You see, ass, A-S-S, assume makes an ass out of you and me, doesn't it? We should never agree to assume. And the other one is this saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. It was my fault I let you get away with it for the second time, and I never saw it coming. And that's another big no-no, is that could be including fool me, could be lie to me. Yeah. If somebody lies to me just the once, a lie to someone you're supposed to be able to trust and work with and maybe cohabit with, etc. Wives, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends. One lie can do it in. Can be the death of it. Because it's a little bit like this. If you have a clean bucket of water, which is your relationship with your countryman, your partner, your husband, your wife, your children, just right, that is the bucket of clean water. Nothing can be finer in China than having a bucket of clear water. Everything's just beautiful and crystal clear. A lie is like dropping a blob of black ink into that water. Now you think, well, drop of black ink, it'll dissipate. Yeah, but it's destroyed the clarity of the water. The quality of the water has been degraded and the clarity has been degraded. And furthermore, the fact that it's in there in the first place has done irreparable damage. And that's what is meant by fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Now, think about this. That bucket of clean water will never be. Because once somebody's shafted you, excuse me, what I mean shafted you, once somebody's betrayed you in any way, that little blob of black ink's hanging there by its little pen nib and it's going to drip, and it's dropped. Well, not only is it with the Europeans dropped in British clean water, it's been going drip, 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 drip since we joined. They've lied and lied and lied and lied again, lie on top of lie. And we're still saying, oh, now talk about shame on me. It would be a shame for every Brit to accept that Europe tells the truth. Because it's done nothing but lie and deceive. And that goes with hand in hand. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Hand in hand with majority of politicians that are supposedly serving the nation, us, who vote for this country, in this country, us who live in the country, us who were born, bred and wired. Now, I think, like an English person, you might come from another country and think like a French person or a German person or a Hungarian or a Polish person. Hey, that's life. Okay? But we cannot amalgamate our society and the way we think and the way we operate It's a little bit like getting a piece of Lego made in Denmark, great toy, loved it, and trying to make it work with a stickle brick. As children, you'll know what a stickle brick is. They don't go together like a horse and carriage, do they? There's no way that we were ever designed to work with France, Germany, Holland, Belgium, Brussels, Belgium, Belgium are bad, I should say, or the others. That's what makes Britain unique, makes England unique. And for hundreds and hundreds of years, we've collaborated on the borders with Scottish and Irish quite happily, and the Welsh. We've had our little skirmishes, but ultimately there is more in common with one another than there is that keeps us apart. We are that close. Our mentalities are very similar because we have a ruler. Much as I hate to say it, we have a common royal family. Now you might argue about Mary Queen of Scots or the ancient kings and queens of Wales. We had our little skirmishes, but ultimately we're all friends now. Okay, we have a common goal. We are an island, technically, aren't we? With another little group called Islands, North and South. But back to the way we think. It is never going to work that we are in such close collaboration with people who are wired differently to us, Lego and stickle bricks. It isn't going to work. And yet they seem hell-bent, don't they? There are other group of people in that wired for thinking mode within England, in the Parliament and the House of Lords and Buckingham Palace, etc. They are a subspecies, quite frankly, because they are wired not just the way most British people are wired. They are wired with another, well, how can I say this? Live TV. They have been corrupt. There is a fly in the ointment. There's certainly a pollution gone on. Something's gone terribly wrong in the minds of people who become in positions of power. Now that you could argue that that's Freemasons. Look into my eyes, and roll your shirt, your trouser leg up and show your left tit and do funny handshakes. We know that. And that's a corruption of the thinking of a true person who is patriotic. Because Freemasonry is way beyond patriotism. Okay, and every country has its versions of Freemasonry, and that is a self-interest up here, when most people are operating down here, self-interested up here, the Freemasons. They are wired so their little program in their brain is looking at me, the cause, the common end goal, who they worship. Now Freemasons, quite frankly, worship Satan. There's no other way to say it. I'm sorry, but they putt from the rough, as you say, in a golfing term. Okay? They are on another level. And if you don't think for 1 second that the overall agenda of the head honcho, and if you don't think evil exists on this world, I've got a really nice bridge I could sell you in the middle of the Atlantic. Really nice bridge, going very cheap for someone just like you. Because everything has a yin and a yang. Up, down, left, right, in, out, good, evil. And there's without doubt, one only has to look at the symbolism that surrounds us in every way. Much of the symbolism is so subliminal, we can't see it unless it's like one of those multicoloured spotted pictures you look at and you stare at them. Well, it's just lots. It looks like somebody's sprayed paint all over the thing, different colours of paint. But then when you stare at it long enough, and maybe it's one of these magic pictures, and when you get the technique of being able to do it once, you'll do it easily to the others. But getting the first one to actually, the magic pictures, you've probably seen them. You can start to think, oh, what's all this about? I can never do this. Well, keep persisting. Okay, because if you stare at it long enough, often enough, and relax, and let the picture draw you in, look into my eyes, I tell you, suddenly it'll become the most beautiful, clear picture you'll ever see. And then you can snap out of it, and it looks like a mess again. And that is exactly what's happening in front of everyone's eyes right now, that we are living on this painting, this hazard area called life, and we don't see the bigger picture because we're too busy kept on the farm with the other animals. Consume, breed, work yourself to death, sleep, drink, booze, party, yada yada. Nobody stops and says, let me take a clear look at this. Let me, for once, chill out, isolate myself, and just see and consider the facts. Now, people would say to me, why am I a Brexiteer? And I ain't really political. You might be surprised to know that. I don't give a shit. I'm not here long enough on this plane of existence to really make a difference. So why bother my ass? Okay. But I do it for those who are bothered, and I do it for my children. If I had no children, I wouldn't be doing these videos. I give you my word, I wouldn't. Because maybe it's like a butterfly effect. Butterfly flapping 1,000 miles away, does it cause a tornado in the other side of town? Maybe. It's a tipping point. It could be. At what point do the scales tip? And we're at a tipping point in our history, folks. Our political history in this country is called Brexit. We have a giant, hideous monster called Europe, which is on the agenda, top agenda, of Freemasonry, that they are going to homogenize Europe into one great big sludge quango mass of Satanists. The people who head up the Tower of Babel that is supposed to be the new European building. Look at it, it even looks half wrecked. And they don't speak the same languages, do they? Of course they don't. But the real Tower of Babel failed to, it's designed to go to the sky, but it fell down, it will become very corrupt. Well, they're actually telling us in their face, we've built another Tower of Babel, we haven't bothered to wait for it to be corrupt because we know it is, so it's built like it's half finished or half destructed. And it's now staffed with people who don't speak the same language and are inept and wouldn't know how to, they do say when you get two Jews together, you have three opinions. Well, that might be a saying that people find amusing, but it's very true. What about if you get, never mind the Jews or Israelis or whatever you want to call them, what about if you get Frenchman, German, English, Spanish, Portuguese, Cypriot, Greek? You got all these people and you're expecting them to agree on a policy that's going to... No, it was never designed. It was designed to throw the population of those countries into a state of chaos and confusion and being preoccupied. Well, we're all preoccupied worrying about Brexit and who's this and we're going to come out and we're going to stay in and we want to come in and we can't get in and we don't qualify. And while all this is going on, the hidden hand up here, the puppet master, and we know this no more than 17 to 20 families that own this world are doing precisely what they want to do with the idiots down here. They are conducting the orchestra. And we scrabble and fight about all this, Brexit that, and we go. Sometimes you have to take a step back and try and see the magic picture. And the magic picture could not be any easier to see when you grasp it from another light or another angle. You hold it further away so you can focus on it. Maybe we're too close to the problem. We have to stand back. Say, right, I've tried to understand what's going on with Brexit in Europe and the super state and why we should come out or stay in, and I'm a Remainer and whatever badge you want to give yourself. Okay? For a majority of the population in the United Kingdom, whether we're in Europe or not makes not the blindest bit of difference. We all have to, whether we're in Europe or not, have to pay a gas bill, electric bill, a council bill, your rates, your council tax. You have to pay an income tax. If I cut myself, do I not bleed? We have to pay the national insurance for the hospital care. That's if you've got a job. Okay? We have to put the fire on when we're cold and we can't afford it. It's either eat or keep warm. Both equally important. The other problem is we have to keep healthy, and heaven forbid we end up in a hospital because I'm self-employed and I've got no insurance. So if I'm not working, I'm not earning. If I'm not earning, I'm falling behind in my rent or my mortgage. Or whether you're in Europe or not, most people's problems will remain. The only people who should really getting bent out of shape about Europe, whether we're in or out, are the business people. Well, people who own businesses in this country of ours, United Kingdom, okay, are less than 5% of the population own their own business. And out of those, there's a few that don't even operate outside of Great Britain. Okay? It is a very similar thing, before I digress too much, that they insist GPs out there, or they try to insist, that we all get the flu jab. Every year. Have you had your flu shots? Nope. Why not? Well, what virus strain is in the flu shot? Virus A. There's 6. Okay. So let's call it, let's say just instead of A, let's just say 1. It's strain 1. Oh. How do you know when you produce strain 1, right, which you have to produce a year ahead before, because it takes time to produce? You've got to make this year the inoculation for next year's suckers, patients, or the takers. Well, it's a bit of a gamble. Well, it's a 1 in 6 gamble. Yeah, we have to. There's a 1 in 6 chance of getting it right. Well, no, because that 1 has 6 variants. So now we're into 1 in 36 chance, because they might get number 1 all right, but they've got the wrong variant. They got the one with 2 arms and 1 leg instead of having 2 arms and 2 legs. That variant, you know what I mean. It's not going to match. So there's a 1 in 36 chance of you getting it right if you produce a vaccine against influenza for next year. Because nobody knows. It's a gamble. And they're trying to get me to stick that in my arm on a 1 in 36 chance bet of not only getting it right and I'm fully covered come what may. The fact remains that only in a population of 67 million now in this country, less than 50 people annually die of influenza. And a lot of those are infirm and elderly also. Some of them are young. But 56 people in a population of, let's just call it 16 billion, 56 people died within 60 million people. And they make such a fuss about us. I would take that chance that I'm not going to die of flu next year. And the odds are certainly stacked in my favour of survival. And that says a lot to me. Lies, damn lies and statistics. And I have a lot of discussions with my mate who's my GP and say, forget it, don't even phone me up asking me about my bloody flu virus jabs. I ain't a sucker. I can do the maths. And you can't tell me that you're going to get that vaccine for the right one. You know what's going to happen next year because nobody knows what the vaccine is, the flu is going to be next year. What strain is going to be floating around our bloody heads. Do they? So, you know, the odds of getting it right are phenomenally tough for the pharmaceutical industry because there's too many variations. Okay, 1 in 36 chance, and out of that, let's say it's the wrong, let's say the virus hits the scene and you've got the wrong inoculation, you're going to get it. Well, that's bloody unlucky for you. Okay, you might suffer the cold or the flu symptoms, or even worse, of the flu symptoms, but you'll probably get over it. Not everybody who gets flu dies of flu. Plenty of people in this country get the flu and survive, thanks very much. Just felt crap for a few days. Very, very, very few people die of the flu. They're just bloody unlucky. Well, that's what we are. And that's what this is what the chance of survival of the Tower of Babel surviving, when you've got so many permutations of character, wiring of people, manipulation, lies, deceit, the chances of Europe succeeding when there's so much against it, it's not going to survive. It is never going to survive. It is floundering like a dead fish on the bank at the moment. Okay? And I'll give you an analogy. Okay? There's a university student who's oh so knowledgeable about everything. And he's watching this angler. Okay? And there's bikes going up and down the riverbank and the angler's fishing and oh right, yes, and he's on his bike and he's going around. And he's very, 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 very clever. And anyway, the fisherman buggers off. And this very clever chappie is driving his bicycle, riding his bicycle. And he says, "Oh," in his posh way. He sees a fish flapping around on, on the bank. He thinks, "Oh," and he goes up and he grabs hold of the fish and he looks around. He puts it up on the tree and bikes off. This chap stops him and says, "What do you do that for?" He says, "Well, I saved the thing's life." He says, "Well, you're a clever guy. What do you put a fish up a tree for? It's alive." He said, "Oh, yes, well, I didn't want it to drown. I didn't want it falling in the water." Now, you might find that funny or not, but the point about it is this. Even the most educated people, or those that think they're educated, look so ridiculous when you consider what it is that's coming out of their mouth. Just like the idiot who put a floundering fish up a tree thinking, well, didn't want it falling in the water and drowning. And this is what we've got with the people who want to stay in something that is evidently going to become a collapsed Tower of Babel. Again, as though we didn't learn from the last time of the Tower of Babel's failures and what the consequences were. Because these people are wired differently. That's all. Okay? Many people think, you've got to think it and become it and believe it and eat it and sleep it and breathe it to be one. Whatever one will be. And that's very true. And I cannot think. I might be able to think for a little while like a German. Don't mention the war. Okay? But I don't have the other characteristics. I can't put my ducks in a row and all the characteristics because I haven't been brought up in that environment. Okay? People act in a manner in which they are programmed. It's like having a Mac operating system and a PC operating system and putting them together and expecting it to work. They're both perfectly functional computers. But they don't communicate. They are from another planet when it comes to the software. There's no compatibility with our European friends. The French don't like the Germans don't like the French, we don't like the Spanish and the yada yada. How can you possibly homogenize and expect it to be a success? It's like making a cake with every known ingredient in your kitchen and expecting it to taste any good or survive in the cooker, in the oven. It's never designed. The whole point of the European superstate, folks, is to keep our minds preoccupied with such nonsense, while the hidden hand up here is getting on with far more important things, like how are they going to split up the Middle East? Do you get me? How are they going to get their new Babylon established? And how are they going to settle the differences between the Sunni and the Shia? But by the rest of us are all fighting over this thing that's happening across in Europe about, the Tower of Babel that's destined for failure. It's a great machine for keeping us all preoccupied with Brexit. While up here, the hidden hand don't give a shit. Because the money, folks, the money and the power, okay, money is power, okay, not knowledge. Money is the power. I know plenty of thick people who are absolutely minted. And people don't care how clever you are. Because you can buy clever if you've got enough money. Okay? You can buy brains. That's what people are employed for. People pay me for my brain and you for your brain and abilities and all. So forget it. But the hidden hand isn't preoccupied thinking about Europe and Brexit and international trade, because Europe will be in irrelevance. It's a speck of dust for these people, because the real power is going to be re-establishment of Babylon. And the people who want the re-establishment of Babylon, okay, are the Jewish Zionists. That's where the moneylenders started, and that's where they want to re-establish, because they got rid of Babylon, didn't they? And they got turfed off the land. And most of them went to settle in this land called Israel. But they now want it back, and they want to establish, they don't just want a poxy little state in the middle of Palestine, they want the Middle East. Because that's where the future for this world stands, the power and the money and the glory and the gas and the oil and a strategic position on this world. And we're all too busy talking about Brexit. Well, we're down here doing that, they're up there creating arguments between the Sunni and the Shia Muslims. And the big goal has to be to destroy a threat to Babylon. And the biggest threat to the establishment of a new Babylon is Iran. And that's what it's all about. We've had Afghanistan, we've had Iraq, we've had Libya, we've had, well, Bahrain soon. We already own Saudi Arabia. That's a non-entity. Turkey will be a piece of piss. The one to crack, as far as the new Babylonians are really wanting, the one to crack and manipulate into a state of war is Iran. And once they get rid of Iran, they will then make designs on Bahrain and others. Okay? Don't even think your way out of the quagmire. Right? We have others. Dubai, you name it. But Iran is the biggest threat to the new Babylon. And there are people living in Israel, in the state of Israel, that are waiting and praying and begging for every ounce of their being that they will be an established new Babylon as a new landmass for those Zionists to call their home, because they ain't happy in a state of Israel. They want a country not called Israel. They want a country like they used to have, called Babylon. And they will have it. So let's not get too phased out whether we stay in or stay out. Most Brits don't really suffer whether we're in or out. We suffer just the same. Okay, that's all. And it doesn't really matter what the people think. The hidden hand will get what they want, irrespective. We've got to stop thinking we have a choice. We don't. I just don't want to play anymore, because I've seen the rules of the game and who are the game masters and what the agenda is, and I choose not to play. Simples. Catch you tomorrow. What do you think about that? Check out the need for the new Babylon. So it is written. It's been prophesied for hundreds of years. They will establish a new Babylon. Not the great Israeli project, folks. It is the establishment of Babylon. Back like a phoenix out the ashes for the moneylenders. Oh, the hidden hand. Sorry. Bit of a faux pas there. I must put that fish back up the tree now.